Hi everybody, Steve Halley here with the Family Peace Initiative, and welcome to the July edition of the Facilitators Tool Chest blog. I realize I've been talking a lot about being trauma responsive and how to incorporate mad, sad, glad, and afraid into conversation, but maybe have been remiss as to what's the point of all that, what are we trying to achieve? And so today I wanted to talk with you a little bit about a top-down approach versus a bottom-up approach to battery intervention. When you think about brain development, the brain develops from the bottom up and the inside out. And so the last part of the brain really to become online is the prefrontal cortex, which is all about our logic system and our rational thinking. And, so most of our interventions that we use in battery intervention, at least that I've seen around the country, are really top-down approaches. They're talking about using the top of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, to try to intervene with people's behavior. It's the kind of the battering is a choice, and you can make a different choice. It's all very logical, approach to intervention. And those approaches are fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But with the knowledge that so many of our participants have experienced developmental trauma, right, we know that a top-down approach is not really the preferred way to intervene with that kind of an issue. And so while trauma is not the only issue we want to address in battery intervention, we can do it. We can engage. We can help people begin the healing process. We can connect the cruelty people have done in relationships to the cruelty they've experienced in their lives long before they were cruel. And some of the simple ways to do this, when I talk about this, top down is the thinking, rational, cognitive brain. The bottom up is the emotive brain and the body sensations, the body awareness. Because in trauma, people tend to disconnect from others, and they tend to disconnect from their own bodies. And so being able to heal from that, in part, is asking people to get back into connection with themselves and hopefully re-engaging in connection with others. How do we do that? We're back to conversations about mad, sad, glad, and afraid. And here's the way I imagine it. In many programs, there is some type of presentation or homework assignment that has to be offered, conversations that we have with individuals about certain topics. Well, before someone presents their presentation in class, the facilitator could just simply say, hey, before you get started, how are you feeling? Mad, sad, glad, or afraid? That forces them or invites them to become aware of what's happening in their body. What am I feeling? Mad, sad, glad, or afraid? And if they can identify, well, I'm feeling kind of anxious, which I guess would be afraid. Great. What's that mostly about? Well, I'm afraid of messing up. I'm afraid of becoming emotional in front of the class. I'm afraid of, having to be responsible. Thanks. As soon as people move that way and being able to walk into their feeling, walk into what's happening in their body, now they're in a bottom-up approach. Now they're in their limbic system. Right? And so we might do the same thing after they get done. Hey, now that you just finished this presentation or this homework assignment, how are you feeling now? Mad, sad, glad, or afraid? Yes, it did probably shifted. What's that feeling mostly about, and where do you notice that in your body? Now that conversation at the front end or the back end takes 3 to 5 minutes max. If you really have someone talking about it, it could take as much as a minute, right? To include a bottom-up approach, which is helping people to learn how to become aware of themselves. It's a small approach. It's not a huge step into healing trauma, but it's a step in the right direction of helping people be aware of their own feelings, which they get disconnected from as a product of trauma and socialization. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to consider that a trauma-responsive approach is not a different choice than the normal approaches that are out there in battery intervention, the cognitive CBT approaches, right? It's in addition to, we can add an affective component to a cognitive CBT approach. So while we're asking people, why did you make that choice, top down? We can also be asking them, what was the feelings that was going on when you made that choice? And what were those mostly about? And what's happening in your body as you're talking about the feelings that you are having at the moment? And that conversation does not take long. And I can tell you it will increase your engagement. It'll increase the group members' participation with each other, their in connection with each other. And it will move the impact of your program just by learning to include a bit of a bottom-up approach with the commonly known and commonly taught top-down approach to battery intervention. Both can be done, and it doesn't take a major adjustment in your style in order to implement this effectively. Now, we do facilitator trainings that teach these affective components all the time. We are not advocating that people leave behind their own approach that they've been trained and are familiar with. We're just asking and encouraging people to add something to what you're already doing to increase your effectiveness, increase the engagement, increase the participation, and increase the safety for those who are not in your room, who are depending on us to do a good job. So give that some thought and, come to one of our trainings if you'd like to learn more about how to, implement a trauma responsive approach in addition to what you're already doing. So happy July to you, and I'll look forward to hopefully seeing you in August. I'll try to get another one of these out, and thanks for everything you do.